Alright guys, how we doing? Welcome back to the channel. Now today there were some brand new Mega Dimension trailers for Pokemon Legends EA. And we have so much stuff to dive into, so much exciting stuff to talk about. We have brand new Mega Evolutions, we have a look at the map and the environment of Hyperspace Lumiose, which will be the location of the DLC, and some pretty earth-shattering revelations for the Pokemon franchise in general. For example, the confirmation that overclocking beyond level 100 is now a thing. Something that I proposed in a recent video might happen for Gen 10. Well, it's actually happening right now in Gen 9. Some potential, very subtle indicators that we might be leaving Lumiose, and finally, some characters who will be showing up for the Mega Dimension storyline, including a little girl who I have some theories about, and of course the return of Gym Leader Karina, who seems to be taking her lineage of Mega Evolution gurus much more seriously this time. And believe it or not, there's more, so let's unpack this. Alright, let's dive into this. So we'll play these trailers. There's actually 2 trailers and actually a third one as well that was for a Diancie mission separately. But you see this cool cinematic of Paxton or Harmony falling into the Hyperspace Lumiose dimension, and I think that cinematic looks great. I love the color scheme, very like rainbow themed. Obviously it's the Mega Evolution colors. This is my first issue. We've got the location here of the DLC just being like a mirror dimension of Lumiose City. If you think about this from a development perspective, you could call it lazy, especially, and forgive me guys, I am a little bit colorblind, but to me, I can only speak for myself, to me, this quite literally looks like the Lumiose flat JPEG building fronts that we've already seen and has already been a big focus of criticism. Despite myself and others really enjoying the game overall, this was an area of criticism. It now looks like they've just been washed out. It looks like this is what they would have designed before they applied any color to it. You know, if you get like a coloring book for a kid, it looks like what would happen before you color it in. It's just grayscale, it's washed out. So I think that it looks terrible in terms of just like the environment. However, the sky looks pretty cool. It just strikes me as something that's simple to design. But here, let's talk about some positive stuff before we get into the negative stuff. And here we see the confirmation of that idea that I suggested in a video only a few months ago that might happen for a future game or Gen 10, overclocking above level 100. Now, we don't know if this is a permanent thing, a temporary thing. I'm leaning towards it probably being like a temporary thing. We'll see the mechanics of Hoopa's Donuts in a second. So we have like recurring characters, which I think the characters were largely great for ZA. We've got this girl whose name is like Ancha, which really weirdly reminds me of Ange or Anja, which I think is maybe like a slight callback to the name of the Lumiose Tower or the weapon that AZ built there. You can see that they have put a kind of like goofy little spin on a Pokemon that, in my opinion, has some amazing lore. The movie of Hoopa is really kind of intense. There are elements where like it's eating and it's kind of like a greedy Pokemon and it likes food, but this is like a real like demon genie type Pokemon. There's some really dark, serious tones you can go for with Hoopa, but they have gone for this. Although it might overall be quite a serious, dark tone, they have gone for this like jovial, you know, Hoopa in this form before it becomes Unbound, and we'll talk about Unbound in a second as well, but before it becomes Unbound, it is quite a like cheeky, sort of friendly, you know, like a friendly neighborhood nuisance type Pokemon, and it apparently loves donuts, which is obviously like a hoop-shaped food. Very cool. And it appears apparently as potentially a guest in Hotel Z, which, you know, Tawny or the other guy, if you play as Harmony, they are struggling to get the guests into Hotel Z. So that's going to be one reason why they're probably just like willing to have these people there, even if we're suspicious of them. Her eye color is very interesting. I would say she looks slightly, and I mean slightly, like she could be a Hex Maniac, a young Hex Maniac. Call back to, of course, the X and Y Easter egg of No, You're Not the One, which still hasn't been fully paid off, and it could be just a community hype thing where the community have taken this really like minor Easter egg. It didn't feel like a minor Easter egg when we were playing X and Y, but a minor Easter egg and kind of like we're waiting for that payoff. There was a like dialogue of an NPC, I think, in ZA where there's like a hex maniac trying to figure out what it means or something. So it's like a really minor callback, but this could actually be like a ghost version or like a future projection of the girl. Remember as well, Hoopa is a ghost type. We've got some more scenes here and another returning character. We've got Karina. This is happening all, by the way, inside the Rust Syndicate. She is back. She is looking incredible when she puts this Mega Evolution headband on. She's strapped up with all of these different Mega Rings, or I don't know if they're Mega Stones or like different Mega Rings that are like infused according to different Pokemon. Like, I think these represent certain Pokemon. Anyway, she's got a bunch of Mega Rings / stones and the headband. She looks absolutely awesome. And like I said, it looks like she's becoming the like Mega Evolution guru, passing down the wisdom of Mega Evolution a lot more seriously. And it looks like a lot of history is about to be created for the future of Pokemon. Like ZA is going to be a reference point where we understand Mega lore. Why did this big hole open up, this hyperspace hole above Lumiose? What is Hoopa doing? And she Mega Evolves something, we don't see what, and then we see again Hyperspace Lumiose, and we've got all of these new Pokemon that obviously weren't in the main game. We've got like Mishana, we've got 2 new Megas here, by the way, Baxcalibur and Chimecho. Now, Chimecho is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Yes, that's right, even before it got a Mega, I love Chimecho so much, and it is going to get a Mega Evolution here, which is awesome. We'll see that in a second. First of all, though, we have Baxcalibur, which I've seen a lot of people saying this is quite a basic Mega. I understand, because its body doesn't change too much apart from this massive Excalibur sword going through it. But this sword looks so good. Chimecho there also looks really good. A lot of like, I guess, replicas of Chimecho's like main body attached to its bell structure that's part of its skeleton. I don't know. It's just an awesome design. I love both of these, to be honest. And you can see, as we see more shots from different angles, we really are just in like a grayscale, washed out version of Lumiose. Like everything's just this like weird monochrome. I don't think this is a good stylistic choice. If it is a stylistic choice, which I am doubtful of, I think it is just like we're doing this because it might look stylistic, but it's actually just because it's easier for us to like program and easy for the game to run like this. I don't know why you would choose even Hyperspace Lumiose to look like that. The buildings, they just look awful, but we've been here a million times before. We know how I feel about that. And also, it just looks worse, doesn't it? It just looks worse than even it was before. That's the shame, because the idea of this like mega dimension is so enticing. And again, the sky does look cool, but not a fan of the washed out buildings. We have this bit of text from Corbeau here saying, if we're talking worst case scenario, Hyperspace Lumiose could eventually swallow the whole city. So there are some really big stakes here. And this idea of overclocking, this idea of the levels going above 100 as caused by Hoopa, it's very relevant to Hoopa and what Hoopa as a Pokemon, as a mythical Pokemon, represents. I've done some theories on this channel before about like, is Hoopa potentially even like a nemesis or like some sort of like interdimensional demon that challenges Arceus's vision, orderly vision of the universe. You know, Arceus created the universe and said, in my universe, Pokemon get from level 1 to level 100. That is just the structure, right? That you can't, that's just like almost like embedded into the lore of science in Arceus's vision for the world. And then Hoopa comes along as some kind of like other demon from another sort of realm and says, hey bro, like that's not like, you can change this design if you want. So Hoopa could be this kind of like, at least Hoopa Unbound could be this kind of like challenging figure that gives us, of course, a new mechanic to play with in this overclocking, getting over level 100, but also like challenges the lore of Arceus's universe. Of course, we are talking about other dimensions here, so anything is possible, anything's on the cards. And what I wanted to say about Hoopa is it has obviously this Unbound form, and its whole thing is about this uncontainable power within that has to be eventually contained. When somebody figures out that they can put it in like a prison bottle, there's obviously some sort of magic or science behind that contraption, and Hoopa is currently in its contained form. So this, in the movie, for example, Hoopa was portrayed as like sort of more good, morally good in this form, but its Unbound form is like this separate, like wandering spirit entity with immense power. It can summon all of these legendary Pokemon, which you would imagine will happen in the DLC too, and it would be the kind of Pokemon that, because of this Unbound power, it kind of is responsible for the overclocking to level 140, level 160, which is probably going to be limited at probably, I would imagine, 200. But I think this is so cool. Such a perfect mechanic to, one, call back to what we all thought as kids. Like when we were playing the first ones, it's like, can you get a Pokemon over level 100? And for like 25 years, 30 years, you haven't been able to until now. So this is a real like poignant moment for Pokemon, and Hoopa is going to be the Pokemon, it seems, that is responsible for this, Unbound Hoopa. So I really do think they're positioning Unbound Hoopa as this immense force from another realm that could challenge and potentially even exceed the power of Arceus. So I guess as an overall reaction to this trailer, everything looks great apart from these like weird grayscale monochrome buildings that I'm not a fan of at all. I think the environment is super disappointing. But to get the negative out of the way, this idea of overclocking is going to be super fun, super challenging, and I have to commend Pokemon for coming up and actually doing something like this, which is something that I've been thinking about for years that could be a really good way to increase the kind of like immersion and the difficulty, I suppose, of the game. We've also got the returning characters, so like Corbeau and Emma are coming back. I think the characters are really strong in ZA. I think most of the characters are very interesting, you know, characters you want to hear more from, you want to see how their stories develop. And this girl, again, really suspicious of, like, one, where did she come from? Two, why is she with Hoopa? Why is she aligned with it? Is she protecting it? Is she good? Is she bad? Because there is an argument that ZA has no villains. Like, we are potentially one of the most villainous characters. You know, there's moments in the story where we team up with Corbeau to, like, take on a protester 2 against 1, which normally in historical Pokemon games, you are not in that situation. You are on the other side of that, trying to take on other people like, you know, Team Aqua's or Team Magma or Team Rocket's dirty tactics of like teaming up on you and swarming you. So this Legend series definitely seems to be a place where they are pushing the boat out a little bit, and I love it. I still think there's some overly childish things in the game overall, but I still think that they are going massively in the right direction. She looks awesome. Can't wait to see what Karina's saying about like the whole lore of Mega Evolution and what she thinks is going on with Hoopa, and I can't wait to see whether or not Hoopa is kind of like doing this itself with the help of this little girl trainer, or whether maybe she's trying to protect confined Hoopa from like the unbound Hoopa, which maybe is responsible for having opened the wormhole. Who knows? So it looks like it will be challenging. There's some really cool cinematics here, and this is what I wanted to talk about. There are some moments of this game. I mean, this looks like they're standing on a rooftop right here, but let me see if I can find it. I think it's actually in the other trailer. So let's head over on to the longer trailer with the narration, and I think it's like around the end. You see this? Yeah, look at that. That doesn't look to me like Lumiose City. That looks to me like it's like a Paldean mountain range, or maybe a different part of Kalos. And you see 3 trainers all taking on something. It could be Unbound Hoopa potentially, but something. And the background, I mean, this could be, you know, like you see in the horizon of Lumiose City, sometimes you see the mountain ranges, and that's how, well, like the sun comes over and stuff. It could be that. But these 2 little clips here, so you see this one, it does look like they're on like a hill in Paldea or something. I'm not saying this is actually Paldea, by the way. I'm just saying it might not be in Lumiose or in a hyperspace version of Lumiose. It could be somewhere else. And then here, I don't know where this is. It looks like it's underground, but you see, this looks like Area 0 almost. It's like you see these floating mega orbs a little bit in the background, but you've also got like overhanging vines. I can't think of a place in Lumiose that kind of looks like that, and I think they've kind of done a close-up there quite intentionally, and it looks quite serious and sinister. You know, these guys are troubled by whatever's happening in front of them. So we get in this trailer a little bit more of an introduction to these new characters. This girl is called Diancie, which kind of sounds like Ange. I still don't know how to exactly pronounce the weapon that AZ built, but it's weird that her name begins with A. That seems quite intentional. We see an actual introduction to Hoopa, and they say that Team MZ borrow Hoopa's power to explore these different wormholes. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if we're like on the villain side or if we're trying to save Lumiose City from getting like consumed. See, again, you see another shot here of like the whole of Lumiose. I hate to hammer this point home, but look how monochrome everything looks, and what it's so weird to me. They could at least make it all like rainbowy and cool. There's so much they could do visually, and this to me is just a little bit disappointing. Anyway, I'm gonna try and not hammer that point home. This is cool. This like big thing in the sky kind of like reminds me of the distortion that you see in Legends Arceus that's over Mount Coronet the whole time you're playing the game, but this time obviously it's in Lumiose. You see like that weird glitching effect of the hollow whatever you call these things, like the hollow elevators or whatever, and they're kind of like pointing in all these different directions. I wonder whether you'll actually be able to go on them and maybe like they warp you to different points. Not entirely sure what these like Pokeball things are here, but they seem to be everywhere as well. The trainer in this particular screenshot is wielding a level 96 Malamar, but because it's yellow, I think this does mean that it's been boosted by Hoopa's like donut thing, and basically you have to go into Hyperspace Lumiose, find the right berries, take them back to Hoopa. Hoopa like makes then some sort of donut for you using these like, you know, space distorted berries and as the ingredients, and then it will make you overclocked. So it is definitely showing us that Hoopa has this power to reveal power that you didn't even know was there, this innate unbound power, which is very similar to the law of Mega Evolution, and definitely gonna take Mabel's interest for sure. She could, you know, we've had this whole story of Mabel throughout the main plot of her, like, she's annoyed that she's been held like captive almost by the police or like the law enforcement. The mayor is kind of like telling her that she has to stay in one place. Maybe she's going to reach breaking point because it's been 5 years that she's been held captive. Maybe she'll see like an opportunity to grab power, to escape, to fight. Like maybe she'll go end up living in the Mega Dimension, who knows, because she is obsessed, Mabel, with like unrealized power that is within living things. So you see these Pokeballs like everywhere, and we see like ZA Royale style missions come up. So destroy floating Pokeballs. So it seems like that's actually what they are for. Catch wild Pokemon, use the catch window, and then later on like defeat trainers appears, which is weird. So there's actually going to be trainers in Hyperspace Lumiose as well, whether they are like indigenous to Hyperspace Lumiose or whether they are like just sort of civilians from regular Lumiose City that somehow get to Hyperspace Lumiose as well. I don't know. You can imagine a lot of the strong trainers in Lumiose will be like, okay, if there's power in there, I want to go and explore it. So that's interesting. And then here we see a little bit more of an insight into exactly what happens with the level boost when you get certain berries and you make these concoctions for Hoopa to then create you a donut. And it's going to be like a whole mechanic thing. So you want to basically get as close, I guess, to level 200 as you possibly can, or at least as much of a level boost as you possibly can for some of the big fights. And you can imagine then that the big boss battle at the end of this is either going to be a new Pokemon, or most likely it's going to be Unbound Hoopa, which might be like level 250. Who knows? It could be even higher. It could be lower. Who knows? But it really does open up some awesome possibility, some crazy stat totals, and some real incredible power when you think about the wider scope of Pokemon lore in the Pokemon universe. These things are going to be stronger than Arceus, stronger than legendaries. If you take in a basic like Machoke and it's level 150, that's probably going to be like stronger than, you know, any physical attacking legendary like Terrakion or whoever, you know. I just can't stress how much I love Karina's new outfit. She's really embracing the whole Mega Evolution identity. The colors look great. She's got this I can't wait to understand like why she's got this. Maybe she just wants to be able to like Mega Evolve any Pokemon at any point. But I don't know if that's enough. She's got like maybe 12 Mega Stones there. There's probably more on her back, more in her like gauntlets. She's looking a bit like Thanos right there. Just such a shame about the environment. But still, you do see the reflections of like the Mega Portal and the rainbow coloration kind of, you know, emitting and reflecting off of the surfaces. Again, just a shame what the surfaces themselves actually look like. More croissant curry banter. Not looking forward to that. And then, yeah, like I said again, guys, this sort of ambiguous area that could be a little part of Lumiose at the corner, or it could be somewhere different entirely. So let me know what you think. We've also got, by the way, a Diancie mission, which I don't think requires the DLC to be purchased. I think this is just going to be a new like downloadable mission, which is pretty cool. Gives a little bit, I mean, Diancie had a whole movie. You got to bear that in mind. So, you know, Diancie's the kind of Pokemon that you wouldn't have really been too confused if it got a whole game or a whole, like, rather than just one mission, like a whole quest line of multiple missions. But it looks like it will just be one mission, and it looks like it'll be 30, 40 minutes of content potentially, but that remains to be seen. And then you will be able to use Mega Diancie, which is awesome. It remains to be seen how fleshed out the story of this mission is, but I'm glad to see some of the mythicals that didn't really get much love in the original X and Y and the original Gen 6 get some actual plot line behind them. So, with all that being said, guys, let me know what you think about the trailers that we've seen today. I think that this is going to be a lot of fun to play. I'll always have my criticisms about the visuals. Real shame that it doesn't look more amazing in terms of the environment. They could do all sorts of stuff. You think about the distortion world, you think about ultra space. Even that looks more enticing than a bunch of like white, washed out grayscale buildings. However, I do think gameplay wise, it's going to be super fun. Lore wise, there's going to be a lot of content to pick out from there. And I do think Pokemon is overall going in the right direction. If they can just nail the visuals a bit better and make a few more changes, we are going to be in a really good era, golden era of Pokemon in my opinion, but that remains to be seen. Can't wait. Also, by the way, just last point, I do think that this coming out in December, so it is going to be December the 10th on a Wednesday, so that's telling me that they want to be totally done with Gen 9 at the end of 2025, and then going into the 30th anniversary year, they want to be like, okay, it's Gen 10 time now, and whatever else they've got cooked up for us going forward, fully into the Switch 2 era as more people pick up the new console. And I would imagine that we are going to see some real, hopefully, drastic changes in the future, and we are going to be like done with ZA by the time January the 1st comes around, by the time 2026 arrives. So very interesting that they want to be done with it. Anyway, guys, let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments, and we'll definitely be thinking more about this. Can't wait to play it. 4 weeks away. That's all. 4 weeks. And then we'll be able to play the DLC of Legends ZA. I'm having a lot of fun with the game, and I hope to continue doing so. There's so many more missions I've got to do and so many alphas to catch and all that kind of stuff. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think this DLC is going to give us even more content. Very excited, and probably a lot of legendaries as well. Anyway, guys, until next time, love you, gang. See you guys.